Following the guidance of our public health experts, today I will be issuing a statewide stay-home order for all of Idaho. The statewide stay-home order is in effect immediately and will remain in effect for 21 days.
Wow, that was exactly 1 year ago, March 25th, 2020. Governor Little ordered all non-essential businesses to shut down and asked all Idahoans to stay home for 3 weeks. The hope was to help stop or at least slow down the spread of the novel coronavirus within the community and eventually the counties and then, of course, across the state. Schools, restaurants, gyms, theaters, bowling alleys, and bars all closed for any sort of in-person participation. Things we need, like groceries, gas, and emergency medical services, those were still accessible. And then that 21 days turned into more than a month. You remember that? Yeah, that was quite a stretch. This, you might remember, as well, about a year ago. Downtown Boise, during that stay-at-home order, pretty much a ghost town. Playground at Ann Morrison Park, always littered with kids, empty. Downtown streets, vacant. You can see Capitol Boulevard near Boise State. We also showed you Rhodes Park. That was empty. But look, Bodo, 8th Street Marketplace, empty. It is just an eerie sight to see downtown Boise look like this. But that's what it looked like 1 year ago, right around this time. That stay-at-home order eventually lifted on May 1st, that is 31 days later. And that meant the statewide closure of 90% of those non-essential businesses. Well, that also ended. But during those 31 days, there was a lot of confusion and controversy over what was considered an essential business. First and foremost, essential, while accurate, a rather touchy word to use during these times because it gave critics an avenue to, well, tyranny, a misguided hop to the way the word has been used historically. And I think you know where I'm going with that. But in essence, how can the government deem my business, my job, not essential? It's essential to me, my family, to my livelihood. Maybe fundamental might have been a better word. Either way, the term essential stirred up a lot of debate. In fact, when that stay-at-home order was announced, the governor's office sent out a 3-page list of what the state considered essential and what could remain open. It was a lot. What was shutting down? I mean, what is shutting down? If there were 3 pages of what could stay open, well, people had to get their groceries and their gas and, of course, make their medical and dental appointments. But even that list didn't quite clear up all of the questions. So one day after making that order, we sat down with Governor Brad Little in this studio because, well, media being considered essential and all, and we asked him for specifics. Is there an easy answer to this? I'm not sure. But what about places like pawn shops?
They were talking about that last night, and I'm not sure. I know hardware stores are open. So.
Right, because you need to fix stuff. You got things break down. Gun shops, are they essential?
Gun shops are protected by state law even before this.
And tobacco stores, what about them?
I don't know about tobacco stores. If it's solely tobacco, I have no idea.
Okay. Golf courses, are they essential?
The outdoor part, but the indoor part would not be, I think.
Construction jobs, we got that question a lot.
I think most construction jobs are protected.
Somebody who is buying a house and is moving, are movers essential?
I don't know.
Okay. House cleaners?
I don't think so.
Okay. Lawn and pool companies that take care of yards and parks and all that kind of stuff.
I had a question on that, and they said we got it covered, but I don't know what covered was.
Okay, all right. There wasn't a whole lot of clarity back then as we set out to get control of a highly contagious virus. And yes, we were 6 feet apart when we could actually have people in this studio besides, well, just me. And that clarity didn't apply to just who should shut down and for how long. We were trying to figure all of this out on the fly and fast. Eventually, places like restaurants, schools, gyms, they all evolved, having to figure out how to open without actually opening completely. We leaned into delivery and takeout, took advantage of curbside service. We hung masks from our rearview mirrors so we could use them wherever we were going. We added remote learning to our lexicon, and we learned Zoom wasn't just a catchphrase for a car commercial. And not that it wasn't without setbacks. As we reopened in phases, places like bars and nightclubs, at least in Ada County, were forced to shut down again over the summer as we rode the state's second spike. And even as we got into the fall, there were still some continual questions about gyms and schools, but they were allowed to remain open eventually with restrictions, as we have learned. And yes, we eventually figured out the difference between what we needed versus what we wanted in a health crisis, essential versus non-essential in a precarious pandemic. So what's it been like for those non-essential businesses during the last year? Some have been on an almost never-ending cycle of closing, reopening, and then closing again, and maybe eventually opening again, but specifically like bars and restaurants, depending on the governor's current stage of reopening. And of course, we also put a strain on our local hospitals, so that had to be considered when it came to businesses opening or closing. As cases dropped, those businesses were told they could open with restrictions. Things like masks, limits on the number of people that could come in, and earlier closing times. Some have had to adapt their business models since then. Most still require masks and social distancing when shopping. Unfortunately, some businesses in one of Idaho's biggest economically booming locations couldn't survive all of the ups and downs. Since January of 2020, the Downtown Boise Association says of the 300 street-level businesses that they oversee, 27 have closed their doors. That's since January of 2020, which is about 10%. Of those, 16 closed because of COVID. Then on the flip side, they say now there are 43 new businesses that have opened in downtown since January, and there are another 16 that are slated to open. So there's a little bit of the other side of that. So let's compare those numbers to a normal year like the year before, 2019. At the end of that year, 19 businesses in downtown Boise closed. The growth, though, not really as significant, probably because there wasn't as much space available. 34 new businesses opened, with 12 that were on the way as of December 2019. So the turnover in 2020, obviously a bit higher than it was in 2019. Downtown Business Association says those numbers do not include the upper floor offices that they oversee, so the numbers may be a little different for those. A year later, though, some businesses still not back to full capacity. Some continue to offer reduced hours, half of their normal capacities, to give customers room to move around more comfortably. The bright side of all of this is seeing the light at the end of the pandemic tunnel. There are more businesses that are opening in downtown Boise, after all. We also thought we could see that light, though, at the beginning of all of this last year. Remember that? By taking the shutdown seriously, downtown Boise also took the brunt of it. So here we are, a year later, with another look back at what it looked like last March compared to today.